Hello, this is Steph. Today we're going to see how to resize using FFmpeg. We saw in these days how to crop with FFmpeg, how to rotate with FFmpeg, how to flip with FFmpeg. These are some common operations that you can do with videos. One of the filters that requires better attention is the resize. So we're going to see all the operations that you can do while you are making your videos bigger, smaller, according to your size. If you got the video that is too squished, too thin, that's what you're going to do. So Ubuntu ready behind me, and so now it's time to get started. Okay, here we are with Ubuntu, and we are with the latest version, the official version of FFmpeg, that is the 5.1.1. It is available for both for Windows and for Linux, so if you want to download it, we are aligned. And everything we are doing, it's also working with the previous versions of FFmpeg. The video we are analyzing at the moment is this wonderful video. I like it a lot. And this is a video of a drone going down a mountain cliff and then going to the surface of the snow. This is a rather cool video. The only problem that we have is that it is very high in size. So how can we check the size? We already know how to do it. We have FFprobe. So FFprobe and the name of the video file. We have the right entry. So the video is 1920 by 1280. So what we would like to do is to resize it, in order to bring it to a size of that is a bit more manageable. We can bring it, for example, at 720. So the size is 1280 by 720. So to do it, we can invoke FFmpeg -i, name of the file, this is our input, and then we can invoke the filter. We already know how to invoke filters and how are the parameters, and I'll show you here. There is the reference with a card that is dealing with the filters. So now we got to invoke filter E, and the name of the filter is called scale. I always tell the method resize. I always tell this method as resizing. I always call it resizing, but here it's called scaling. So how do we put the parameters? We simply put the width and the height of the video. This is the simplest way to work with a scale filter. So we put 1280 by 720, and then the name of the video. So I'm going to base my output video file with the name of the input file. So here I put 720 because it's a vertical. Usually the videos have reference always to the vertical thing. So you put 720, 1080, it's always the vertical dimension, the vertical size. And here we put some values. You can also put raw video, but we end up with a very big video size. We put H.264. We put also a flag. We're going to see this later. We'll make a dedicated video about the contrast rate factor that tells the quality of the video, and also a preset to make a video as high quality as possible. And then with the audio track, we can simply copy. We don't touch it, so we can copy it directly. I repeat that filters usually modify the input, so we cannot make a string copy. Anyway, let's get started. Now the video is working. Okay, and now the video finished, and let's see what's the result. Now let's see what's the size of this video. So FFprobe, name of the file, and here we have that is 1280 by 720. So as we wanted, just to test, which is this video. Here we go, we have the video that is slightly smaller. So perfect. This is the simplest way how to work with a scaling filter. Now, since the videos require a lot of time to process, we can do the same thing. Since we are seeing the output on a single frame, we can select a single frame. To select a single frame using FFmpeg, we have the command FFmpeg. In this case, we can scroll up to 2 seconds from the beginning of the video just to see a bit of sky here in the mountains. The part that is more beautiful when the drone goes down. And so we can put the -SS. If you don't remember, I put a card here up above, so how to seek and trim the video. And so now we put the input file. In this case, it is mountains. We got to select a single image. So to select a single image, we can take the command, the parameter frames of the video stream. We're going to take only a single frame. So this tells take a single frame starting from the second, the second 2 in the video, and then we put as file mountains frame.png. So we take PNG that doesn't, it is a lossless compressed frame, and here we go. We have the single frame. So the frame we are considering is this. At this point, we can use the scale filter also on images. So we put FFmpeg -I, name of the input file. Then I remember you, the -filter v is the invocation of the filter. Then the filter you want to use is called scale. Scale equals to, so here we got to put the parameters. We told that it is 1280 by 720. And here we put the frame with 720 in the vertical. So the vertical size in the name of the file. .png again. And here we have the new frame. The new frame is smaller than the previous, as you can see. And just to check, to double triple check, we invoke fmprobe on the new file. And here we go, we have a 1280 by 720. So the same can be applied with images and with videos. Now from this moment on, we are applying an image, so to spare some time in the processing. So far we can work on this in all the situations. So for us it's enough. We put the scale horizontal and vertical. That's enough, and that's all. The only problem is that if you mistype, you will get a stupid size here and there. So if for example you put FFmpeg -I frame, and instead of scale, instead of 720 you put 320, you will see an image that is squished. So this might get a problem. So let's suppose that here we are convinced that we put 720, and you see that the image is super squished. So something that we don't want. To make the thing a bit more reliable in terms of aspect ratio, so the ratio between width and height of the video, what we can do is to leave a parameter and calculate the other parameter in consequence. So what we would like to do is to still invoke FFmpeg with this image, and here we have the filter v scale. Here we don't put the width. Maybe it's also a laziness for us. We know that we want a 720 vertically, but horizontally we don't want to make the calculation, so we don't want to type the big. So these are the purposes. What we can put is to put a -1 and the size in vertical. So in this case, we got to pay attention that the 720 is well typed, and then we put the mountains frame like this. So we want to overwrite, and you see now that our image is with the right proportions. If you want to test which is the right size, again we have 1280 by 720. So with this technique, putting the -1 on one of the two dimensions, we can preserve the aspect ratio on one side or the other. We can also do the opposite. So instead of retain the height, we can retain the width, and the other is calculated in consequence. So it's a rather cool thing. If you want, there's also the possibility to resize by using variables. I mean, if we know that this is 1920 by 1080 and we want to make the half of this size, what we can do is to invoke FFMPEG -I, name of the input file, and then still we are going to use the filter V scale, and now what we can do is to divide this special variable that is IW. IW is image width. You also have IH, that is image height. In this case, we want to resize both horizontally and vertically. So here we put IW divided by 2 and IH divided by 2. So we will have an image that is half both in width and in height. So here we can put the name of the frame as mountains frame half, to say half resolution, half res, like so. And when we save it, you will see that compared to the input, we have a smaller image, but just to check how much is the width and height, again, we can invoke FFProbe on our image. So we can directly set it like this. And here we have 960 by 540. That is exactly the half of 1920 and 1080. So cool. We can also do the same thing only in one dimension. So just to remove the proportions between width and height. So we can invoke FFMPEG still with the same size. Then filter V, we can put scale. In this case, we want, for example, only the input height to be half. So we can keep the input width, and the input height is divided by 2. In the end, we can take this as our output, half, let's say, half height. And here we have the squished video. So we're going to trust that it is the frame that has been squished. So if you don't trust, again, FFProbe, name of the input file. And here we go, 1920 original width and 540 size, so vertical size divided by 2. So cool. Okay, before we set the size in terms of division, we put the input width divided by 2. We can also put multiplication. So instead of putting the divided by 2, what we did before is the same as multiplying by 0.5. So we can set also decimal numbers in the coefficients. So again, if you want to do the exact same thing that we did before, we put the input file minus filter column V scale. Here we put the input width multiplied by 0.5 and the height multiplied by 0.5. Here we put the mountains frame resized, just to check everything is going fine, and we see that a new image with the same proportions is created. And if we check the size, it is the one that we set before. So the probe, name the video, and here we go. 960 by 540, sorry. Okay, so now we have a frame that is slightly upscaled vertically. So this is the input, this is the output. You see that it's a bit bigger vertically. In particular, this has a size of, take the resize frame. We have 1920 by 1200. What we would like to do now is to rescale, but without provoking any upscaling. So what we would like to do is to invoke FFMPEG. In this case, input the name of the file, and in the filter V, filter column V scale, what we would like to do is to put some parameters in order to tell that there is a minimum size to respect. Here we got to use a function that is embedded within FFMPEG, that is the min function. And the min function takes two values, and it's going to choose the minimum between these two values. So got to be careful that here all the scale filter must be put between two quotes. So here we got scale, then another quote. So here these are the double quotes. Here between the single quotes, got to put the min between 1920 and IW. So what does it do? It takes the variable input width, and it's going to compare it with 1920. It's going to take the smaller of the two. So in this case, it is the same, so it will take 1920. Here, we're going to do the same thing, so another couple of single quotes, and this case we want to take the minimum between 1080 and input height. In this case, it's going to downscale the picture to 1080 because 1200 and 1080, the minimum of the two is 1080, so it's going to keep the 1080. Okay, here it is mountains frame as output, mountains frame not upscaled, and here we have our output picture that is has the same size as the other picture. So just to check, as we do always, we have the 1920 by 1080. Okay, now let's suppose we have a cropped version of the video of the frame. So we have a frame that is 640 by 480. So here we have the input and the output. You see that it's kept from the center. And what we would like to do is to resize the frame, but keeping this region at the center and putting some black border around. So this can be done in many ways, but we're going to use in all of them the filter scale, but also two other things. We're going to set the parameter in the scale filter, force original aspect ratio, and also the pad field. So this is the input with the cropped version, and we're going to set the filter column B. In this case, we got to put the double quotes since the thing will be a bit complex. So scale to, let's say, at the moment, 1280 by 720. Or let's go directly with the 1920 by 1080. Then we put the parameter force original aspect ratio, all separated by underscores. In this case, we put a decrease. So in this case, the aspect ratio would be, let's say, automatically decreased if needed. So that's what the thing will do. And then we're going to put the pad. We're going to put a padding of 1920 by 1080. We also put a couple of other parameters. Here these are the X and the Y, the offset where we want to put. In this case we put a -1 and a -1 because the negative numbers will be centered. So will be interpreted as centered in the center of the image. And then as color we want to put black. So without this is like the rotate filter we saw the other time. We put the color black to pad everything with black. So here we put the mountains frame as output padded. And let's see what happened. So here got to put a space, sorry for that. And here you see that the picture is resized to a 1920 by 1080. And it will put some black borders here in this way, just to the so-called the pillar box. You want to put a lighter box so the things horizontally depends on the aspect ratio, but that's a thing that you can do. Okay, before we saw how to put a pillar box, so to put the image with the same aspect ratio and fill the rest of the image with black vertical bands on the sides. What we would like to do here is to maintain the image as it is, and then going to change the size of the picture in order to put some black border. So I'm going to invoke FFMPEG with the same input image that we saw before. So the crop picture is 640 by 480. Then we're going to put the field V. In this case, we're going to put the scale to put to resize it accordingly, and then we're going to put the black borders around. In this case, only the black borders can be okay, but what you can do is scaling with the parameters. Here we're going to take back the minimum function. So here we got to put the minimum between 1920 and the image width, and as height the minimum between 1080 and the height of the video. Then we got to put the force original aspect ratio. In this case, I'm going to decrease. Then the other filter is the pad filter. So pad to obtain 1920 by 1080. Here we got to center the image, so we put a -1 and a -1. And as color, we maintain the black. as output image, we put the black frame, and here we go. We have an image that is with the same size as we had it before, but with a black border. In the end, if we want to upscale and maintain the aspect ratio, so we want to increase the size of the picture and then crop it to have the same aspect ratio, the command is more or less like this. So it is the -I, same old picture. Here the same filter with the parameter scale in order to obtain a 1920 by 1080. We're going to force the original aspect ratio to the increase value, and then we're going to crop. We're going to crop in order to obtain a size of 1920 by 1080. We're going to maintain, okay, no other parameters, because by default the crop filter accepts things from the center. So then the last parameter, that is the mountains frame cropped aspect upscaled aspect ratio. And then we have a frame that is 1920 by 1080 with the aspect ratio of the original image, that is 16:9 for 1920 by 1080. So what we did is to increase and then crop. Okay, now we have a picture that is really small. So if you compare it with the original, we have, this is 1920 by 1080, this is 360. Just to check which is the size of this file, we have 640 by 360. So it's 1/4 both horizontally and then vertically. So what we like to do is to increase the size, and this can be done very easily using the scale filter. So -FFMPEG -I, name of the file. So this is -I. Then filter column B scale. In this case, we put -1 and as height -1080. The problem here is that by default we don't know how to fit the missing pixels. So when you put an image that is very small and you got to increase it, you got to fit the new values, so the missing pixels with new values. Otherwise, you would have a picture with holes in it. We got to fill these holes with the right values. The method on how to choose the values is called interpolation algorithm. So the software allows you to get, select the type of interpolation algorithm, and this can be done in this way. So there is a flag that is called SWS_flags. This tells the flags that you need to use for the scaling. So FFmpeg has a let's say structure that is called SWS, the scaler, that tells how to scale the picture. And here we can put the different algorithms. One of them is the neighbor. It's called neighbor. So what does it do? It simply copies the values of the input image into the neighboring pixels. So we're going to have essentially the pixels that are larger. You won't have a picture that is in a high scale. It's not in high quality, it's not good looking, but at least you maintain all the values that you had in the original picture. This is essentially what you do when you scale a picture. So you see the big pixels. So the pixels that were small, you see them larger. And here, I'm going to take the name of the file as neighbor. And here we go. In the end, we have a picture that is like the same size of the original picture, but if you pay attention, it is slightly so more pixelated. I'm going to scale. You see here the pixels, and here we don't have the pixels. So this is given by two reasons. So since this 360 is a smaller version of this picture, we lost some information. So even if we resized, we see the image that is a little bit blurry. In this case, we chose the neighbor that simply copies, so you see the image that is a bit more pixelated. Okay, today we saw the concept of scaling or resizing. So to put a picture with the size that we want in terms of pixels. We saw how to resize at the size that we want. We saw how to maintain the aspect ratio. We saw how to maintain a picture with the size that we want without upscaling, without wanting. And also we saw how to put some pillars, so to put some black borders, in this case on the sides, because the size of the picture allows it to do like so. And we saw also how to put the image in the center and pad it with pixels around. Here we choose the black color, but you can choose the color you want. In the end, what we did is to choose the interpolation algorithm. Here we chose one of them. If you would like, I will put here the reference about the interpolation algorithm that you can choose. Well, I promise that we'll make a video in the future about the interpolation algorithm in order to understand better what is going on behind and why it is necessary to understand the interpolation algorithm. For the moment, thank you so much for watching all the video up to this point. Remember to like, share, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Follow me also in the social media. For the moment, see you with the next video regarding FFMPEG and much more. And for the moment, thank you so much. Bye. Ciao. Ciao.